Hyunwoo Kim walked into the biggest room he had ever seen. The Galactic Council chamber stretched so far that he could barely see the other end. Hundreds of different alien beings sat in floating chairs that moved around the room like slow dancers. Some looked like giant insects, others like walking trees, and some were just clouds of glowing gas that somehow managed to wear fancy robes. He adjusted his simple black suit and followed the guide, a tall blue creature with too many arms. Behind him walked Admiral Soo-Jin Lee, wearing her best military uniform. She carried a small case with Earth's technology samples, the things that would decide if humans could join this galactic community. "Nervous?" Soo-Jin whispered as they reached the center of the room. "Should I be?" Hyunwoo whispered back. The blue guide gestured for them to stop. High above them, in a chair that looked like it was made of pure light, sat Chancellor Vextai. The ancient being had ruled the Galactic Council for 3,000 years. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music played through water. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," Vextai said. "We have reviewed your application to join our community. Today you will show us your technology so we can decide if your species is ready for galactic citizenship." Hyunwoo stepped forward. "Thank you for this chance, Chancellor. Humans are excited to learn from other species and share what we know." A low rumble came from somewhere in the room. Hyunwoo looked around and saw a massive reptilian creature with scars covering its face. This was Morden, the Council's military expert. He looked like he could eat a small car for breakfast. "Show us your weapons," Morden growled. His voice sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. Soo-Jin opened her case and pulled out a small device. "This is a kinetic projectile launcher. We call it a railgun." She held up what looked like a metal tube with some electronic parts attached. Several council members leaned forward in their chairs. A few made clicking sounds that their translators turned into nervous laughter. "And your engines?" asked a creature that looked like a walking crystal formation. "Fusion drives," Hyunwoo said proudly. "We heat hydrogen until it becomes helium and use the energy for thrust. Very efficient." More clicking sounds. Vexthai's glowing form seemed to dim slightly. "What about your defensive systems?" "Morden asked, his yellow eyes narrowing. "We have kinetic barriers and ablative armor," Soo-Jin said. "Our ships are built to handle impacts from space debris and micrometeorites." The room went very quiet. Hyunwoo wondered if he had said something wrong. A small, furry creature with big eyes raised one of its 4 hands. "Could you explain your civilian ship construction methods?" Soo-Jin smiled. "Of course. All our ships follow the same basic principles. They need to survive re-entry into planetary atmospheres, handle impacts from asteroids, and operate in extreme temperatures. Our mining vessels, for example, need to crack apart asteroids and process the materials inside." "Crack apart asteroids?" the furry creature squeaked. "Sure. We use shaped charges and high-energy lasers to break them into manageable pieces. Then we use magnetic accelerators to sort the materials. Pretty standard stuff." Hyunwoo noticed that many of the council members were looking at each other with expressions that their translators could not quite interpret. Some seemed worried, others confused. "Your passenger ships," Vextai said slowly. "How are they constructed?" "Same way as everything else," Hyunwoo said. "Safety first. They need to survive emergency landings, hull breaches, and collision with debris. We build them tough because space is dangerous." "Define tough," Morden said, leaning forward in his chair. Soo-Jin thought for a moment. "Well, our passenger liners can survive direct impacts from objects up to several tons without losing hull integrity. They have multiple backup systems for life support, navigation, and propulsion. Each compartment can be sealed independently in case of emergency." "What materials do you use for construction?" "Reinforced titanium steel composites for the basic hull, with ceramic metallic armor plating over high-stress areas. The same stuff we use for military vessels, just with more comfortable interiors." The room erupted in a chaos of clicks, whistles, and translated exclamations. Vextai raised one glowing hand for silence. "You use military-grade armor on passenger ships?" "It's not military-grade," Hyunwoo said, confused. "It's just normal hull plating. You have to make it strong enough to handle space travel." Morden, stood up from his chair. Even across the vast room, Hyunwoo could see the alien's muscles tensing. Your mining ships use weapons to break asteroids? They're not weapons, Sujin said. They're industrial tools, though I guess the cutting lasers could be dangerous if misused. And the magnetic accelerators we use to move ore around could probably launch other things if needed. Other things? Well, anything metallic, really. Cargo containers, repair equipment, emergency supplies. The system is pretty flexible. More clicking and whistling filled the air. Hyunwoo started to wonder if humans had made a mistake somewhere in their application. Are all human ships built this way? Asked the crystal creature. Of course, Hyunwoo said. Why would you build them any other way? Space is full of things that want to kill you. Radiation, vacuum, impacts, temperature extremes. If you can't make your ship tough enough to handle those things, you shouldn't go to space at all. Vexthai's glow dimmed even more. We need to discuss this application in private session. Representatives of Earth, please wait in the visitor quarters while we deliberate. As the blue guide led them out of the chamber, Hyunwoo heard urgent, whispered conversations breaking out behind them. In dozens of different languages, the council members were talking very fast about something that seemed to worry them greatly. Did we do something wrong? Hyunwoo asked Sujin as they walked down a long corridor. I don't think so, she said. We just told them how we build ships. Standard human engineering. Behind them, the council chamber doors closed with a deep, resonant boom. Through the thick walls, they could still hear the sound of very agitated aliens having a very serious discussion about something they clearly had not expected. Hyunwoo shrugged. Maybe they're impressed with our technology. Sujin nodded, but she looked thoughtful. Maybe. Or maybe they just realized something about humans that they weren't ready for. Neither of them knew that at that very moment, Chancellor Vexthai was declaring the first emergency council session in over 400 years. 3 months had passed since humans joined the Galactic Council. Do-hyun Park sat in the captain's chair of the Soul's Hammer, watching his crew load the last of the mining equipment. His ship looked like a flying warehouse with too many antennas, and dish arrays stuck to its hull. The other 4 ships in his convoy looked similar, big, blocky, and built for heavy work. Captain Park, his communications officer, called out, "We're getting a priority message from the Galactic Council." Do-hyun frowned. Mining convoys rarely got messages from the council unless something was very wrong. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing Thalmos, the council's military coordinator. The tall, thin alien looked more worried than usual. Captain Park, we have an emergency situation at Kepler Mining Station. Pirates have taken control of the facility and are holding 3,000 workers hostage. That's terrible, Do-hyun said. How can we help? The council fleet is 6 days away. The pirates are demanding ransom and threatening to start killing hostages in 12 hours. Your convoy is the closest group of ships to the station. Do-hyun looked at his navigation display. They were only 8 hours away from Kepler Station. We can be there soon, but we're just mining ships. What do you want us to do? Can you provide evacuation support? Maybe distract the pirates until our military arrives? Do-hyun looked around his bridge. His crew was listening to every word. Chief Engineer Ji Hae-choi caught his eye and nodded slightly. We can try, Do-hyun said. Send us everything you know about the situation. Thank you, Captain. And be careful. These pirates are from the Razor Claw Brotherhood. They're known for their aggressive tactics. The transmission ended. Do-hyun called up the tactical display and studied the information about Kepler Station. It was a typical mining facility built into a large asteroid. The pirates had taken it with 3 fast attack ships that were now patrolling around the station. Ji Hai, he called to his chief engineer. What's our equipment status? All mining systems are operational, she reported. The ore processing. Lasers are at full power, and we have a full load of extraction charges. Good. Signal the other ships in our convoy. Tell them we're going to Kepler Station for a rescue operation. Sir, his weapons officer said nervously, we don't have any weapons, just mining equipment. Do-hyun smiled grimly. Son, you've been working on mining ships for 3 years. What exactly do you think the difference is? 8 hours later, The EI, 5 human mining ships dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler Station. Almost immediately, the pirate ships moved to intercept them. "Unknown vessels," came a harsh voice over the radio. "This is Kelnari of the Razor Claw Brotherhood. Turn around and leave immediately or be destroyed." Do Hyun opened a channel. "This is Captain Park of the Soul's Hammer. We're a mining convoy. We just received a distress call and came to help." Kelnari's laughter sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Mining ships? You pathetic humans should learn to mind your own business. Your slow, clunky vessels are no match for our fighters." "We understand," Do Hyun said calmly. "We just want to help evacuate the wounded. There will be more wounded if you don't leave now." Do Hyun cut the transmission and turned to Ji-hai. "Show them what human mining equipment can do." The Soul's Hammer turned toward the nearest pirate ship. Its forward array of cutting lasers designed to slice through solid rock locked onto the enemy vessel. The beams that could melt through asteroid cores made short work of the pirate's hull plating. The second pirate ship fired missiles at the human convoy. The mining ship's point defense systems, built to destroy dangerous debris before it could damage their hulls, shot down every missile before they got close. "Impossible!" Kelnari screamed over the radio. "Those are civilian ships." "That's right," Do Hyun said as he watched his convoy's magnetic accelerators launch cargo containers full of mining explosives at the remaining pirate ships. The same systems they used to move tons of ore around could throw other things just as effectively. The explosions lit up the space around Kepler Station like fireworks. Ji-hai worked at her console, coordinating the mining convoy's systems. "Sir, the asteroid processing array is ready. Should we demonstrate our rock-cracking capabilities?" Do Hyun nodded. The 5 mining ships formed up in their standard asteroid-breaking formation, their cutting lasers and shaped charges, designed to split apart kilometer-wide asteroids, targeted the remaining pirate vessels. "Wait!" Kelnari shouted. "We surrender. Don't destroy us." "Smart choice," Do Hyun said. "Now release the hostages and abandon the station." 20 minutes later, the pirates were gone and the hostages were safe. The mining convoy docked with Kepler Station to help with repairs and medical aid. 2 days later, Thalmos arrived with the Council fleet. He looked at the destroyed pirate ships floating in space, then at the undamaged human mining vessels. "Captain Park," he said over the communicator, "your report says you defeated 3 attack vessels with mining equipment." "That's correct," Do Hyun said, "though we had to use some of our ore processing charges. I'll need to file an expense report for those." "Your mining lasers destroyed military-grade armor plating? They're designed to cut through solid rock. Metal is much softer than rock. And your cargo handling systems launched explosive devices?" "We had some mining charges in storage containers. The magnetic accelerators can move any metallic cargo where it needs to go." Thalmos was quiet for a long moment. "Captain, what you call mining equipment, most species would call heavy weapons." Do Hyun looked genuinely confused. "Why? We use them for mining, but they're powerful enough to destroy military vessels." "Well, yes, you have to be able to break apart big asteroids if you want to mine them effectively. Some of those rocks are pretty tough. I think I need to make another report to the Council," Thalmos said quietly. That night, Ji-hai found Do Hyun in the ship's mess hall, looking thoughtful. "Captain, do you think we did something wrong?" she asked. "I don't think so," he said. "We rescued the hostages and nobody got hurt. Well, nobody except the pirates." "The Council representative seemed upset about our equipment." Do Hyun shrugged. "Maybe other species don't build their tools as well as we do. I mean, if you're going to space, you need equipment that works properly." Ji-hai nodded. "Makes sense. Space is dangerous enough without using cheap tools." Neither of them knew that at that very moment, every military analyst in the Galactic Council was frantically reviewing the technical specifications of human industrial equipment. What they were finding was making them very, very nervous. On his flagship, Thalmos stared at his report for a long time before sending it to the Council. The title read, "Emergency Assessment, Human Civilian Technology Capabilities." The first line of the report was, "We have a problem." Dr. Seung Ho Yang stood at the podium in the largest conference hall on Nexus Prime. looking out at thousands of alien engineers from across the galaxy. The annual Galactic Engineering Symposium was the most important technical conference in known space. Being invited to speak here was a huge honor for any species, especially one as new to the galactic community as humans. "Thank you for inviting me to speak today," Seung-ho said into the microphone. "My topic is efficient resource utilization in vessel construction, and I'm excited to share some human engineering principles with you." In the front row, Zixander, the chief military engineer of the Crystalline Federation, leaned forward in his chair. His crystal body flickered with curious patterns of light. Next to him sat Neftari, a gaseous being who was considered the galaxy's top weapons expert. She floated in a special containment suit that allowed her to attend physical meetings. "Before I begin," Seung-ho continued, "I'd like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Yoon-Young Kim, who will be helping with today's demonstration." Yoon-Young stepped onto the stage carrying a large metal sample case. She was one of Earth's leading metallurgists and had personally developed many of the materials used in human space construction. "Now," Seung-ho said, "let me ask you a question. When you design a spacecraft, what is your primary consideration?" A tall, insect-like engineer raised one of his four arms. "Fuel efficiency and speed." "Payload capacity," called out another voice from the audience. "Cost reduction," said a third. Seung-ho nodded. "All excellent priorities. But for humans, the first consideration is always survival. Every ship we build must be able to handle the worst conditions space can throw at it." He clicked to his first slide, showing a typical human cargo vessel. It looked thick and heavily armored compared to the sleek alien ships most of the audience was used to seeing. "This is a standard human freight hauler," Seung-ho said. "Notice the thick hull plating, multiple backup systems, and reinforced structural beams. Some of you might think this looks overbuilt." Murmurs spread through the audience. Several engineers were taking notes. "Let me explain our philosophy," Seung-ho continued. "Humans come from a dangerous planet. We have volcanoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, and other natural disasters. Our ancestors survived by building things that could last. When we went to space, we brought that same approach with us." Yoon-Young opened her sample case and pulled out a chunk of metal about the size of a dinner plate. "This is a standard hull section from a human civilian vessel," she said. "The same material we use for cargo ships, passenger liners, and even small personal vehicles." She placed the metal sample on a testing device that projected its analysis onto the main screen. The audience gasped as they saw the composition and strength ratings. "This material," Yoon-Young explained, "is composed of reinforced titanium steel alloys with ceramic metallic composite layers. It can withstand direct impacts from objects traveling at several kilometers per second." Zixander's crystal body flashed bright red, which was his species' way of expressing shock. "Dr. Kim," he said, "those specifications are identical to military-grade battleship armor used by most species." "Really?" Yoon-Young looked genuinely surprised. "This is just basic construction material for us. We use it because space has a lot of debris flying around. Micrometeorites, asteroid fragments, that sort of thing. You have to make the hull strong, enough to handle impacts." Neftari's containment suit speakers crackled to life. "What do you use for military vessels if this is civilian-grade material?" "The same stuff, mostly," Seung-ho said. "Maybe a little thicker in some places. The main difference is the weapons and sensor systems, not the basic construction." A wave of worried clicking sounds swept through the audience. "Let's talk about safety systems," Seung-ho said, clicking to his next slide. "All human ships have multiple backup systems for every critical function: life support, navigation, propulsion, structural integrity." The slide showed the internal layout of a human passenger ship. Red lines indicated emergency systems, backup, power, and redundant safety measures. "For example," Seung-ho continued, "our passenger ships can seal off any section instantly in case of hull breach. Each compartment has its own life support backup. The ship can lose up to 60% of its structure and still keep the passengers alive." "What about propulsion backup?" asked an engineer from the back of the room. Every ship has at least 3 independent propulsion systems, Yun said. Main engines, backup thrusters, and emergency systems. Plus, all the maneuvering thrusters can work together to provide main propulsion if needed. That sounds like military-grade redundancy, Neftari observed. It's just common sense, Xiong said. If your engine fails in deep space, you die, so you make sure you have backups for your backups. He clicked to the next slide showing construction statistics. Here's something interesting. The materials and systems we use for civilian construction cost about 40% less than what most species spend on military vessels. But our safety ratings are consistently higher. Zixander stood up, his crystal body flashing rapidly. Dr. Yang, are you saying that human civilian ships are more durable than our military vessels? I wouldn't know about your military specs, Xiong said diplomatically. But our civilian ships are built to survive anything space can throw at them. We don't really see the point in building them any other way. What about your children's products? Called out a small furry engineer. Toys, playground equipment, that sort of thing? Yun smiled. Same principles apply. Human children are very energetic and tend to break things. We build playground equipment to withstand impacts, extreme weather, and heavy use. Our children's toys have to pass safety tests that would probably destroy most electronics from other species. Could you give us an example? Sure. A typical human children's toy vehicle is made from the same impact-resistant polymers we use for EVA suit components. The electronic systems have to keep working even if the toy is dropped, thrown, or submerged in water. We test them by having actual children play with them for months. The room fell silent. Several military engineers were making urgent notes. Dr. Yang, Zixander said slowly, your presentation suggests that humans build everything to military standards, even civilian and children's products. Not military standards, Xiong corrected. Human standards. We build things to last because replacement is expensive, and failure can be deadly. It's just efficient engineering. After the presentation ended, Xiong and Yun were surrounded by engineers asking detailed technical questions. Most seemed fascinated but also deeply concerned about something. Later that evening, Zixander called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Military Engineering Council. We have a problem, he told the assembled representatives. The humans aren't building civilian ships, they're building a civilian fleet that could function as a military force if needed. Surely you're exaggerating, said General Korth of the U. Reptilian Defense Force. Zixander displayed the specifications from Xiong presentation. Their cargo haulers have stronger armor than our frigates. Their passenger liners have better damage control systems than our cruisers. Their children's toys are built to standards that would qualify as military equipment for half the species in this room. Neftari's form swirled thoughtfully in her containment suit. And they're doing this accidentally. They're not trying to build weapons. They just over-engineer everything because they think it's normal. What do we do about it? Asked General Korth. I don't know, Zixander admitted. But I think we need to seriously reconsider our assumptions about human capabilities, and maybe start improving our own construction standards. The meeting lasted until dawn, but they never did figure out what to do about the humans who built everything like it was going to war. Admiral Myung-Soo Kang stood on the bridge of the merchant vessel Busan Express, watching the tactical display with growing concern. The hegemony fleet had attacked without warning, hitting 3 peaceful trade routes simultaneously. Their massive warships were destroying everything in their path, military and civilian alike. Admiral, his communications officer called out, "We're getting a priority message from Council President Quindal." The main screen flickered to life, showing the amphibious leader of the Galactic Council. Quindal's normally calm demeanor was replaced by obvious panic. Admiral Kang, thank goodness you're in the area. The hegemony has launched a full assault on the Kepler trade route. Our military fleet is 12 hours away, but there are over 50,000 civilians trapped in the attack zone. Myung-Soo nodded grimly. What do you need from us, Mr. President? Your human merchant marine is the only civilian fleet close enough to help. Can you evacuate the civilians before the hegemony ships reach the refugee areas? We'll do our best, Myung-Soo said. How many ships do they have? Intelligence reports indicate at least 30 heavy cruisers and twice as many escort vessels. The Hegemony War Master Talvaron is leading the attack personally. Myung-Soo looked around his bridge. The Busan Express was officially a passenger liner, designed to carry tourists between systems. Like all human ships, it was built to handle the dangers of space travel. But facing military warships was something different entirely. "We'll coordinate the evacuation," he told Quindal. "Send us the locations of all civilian ships and stations in the area." After the transmission ended, Myung-Soo called up the tactical display showing all the human ships in the region. There were 43 vessels total: cargo haulers, passenger, liners, mining ships, and even a few research vessels. Officially, none of them were military ships. "Signal all human vessels," he ordered. "We're going to evacuate civilians from the attack zone. Be prepared for possible hostile contact." Captain Haewon Park of the passenger liner Busan Express received the message while helping load refugees from a damaged space station. Her ship was already carrying 3 times its normal passenger capacity, and more evacuation ships were on their way. "Captain," her tactical officer said nervously, "I'm detecting hegemony ships on long-range sensors. Looks like a full battle. Group heading this way. How long until they arrive?" 2 hours, maybe less." Haewon looked at her passenger manifest. Over 8,000 civilians were aboard, mostly families with young children. The other human ships in the area were carrying similar loads. "Signal the fleet," she said. "All ships continue evacuation operations. We're not abandoning these people." 1 hour later, the Hegemony fleet dropped out of hyperspace directly into the evacuation zone. War Master Talvaron's flagship was a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons. The escort vessels spread out in attack formation. "Attention civilian vessels," Talvaron's voice boomed across all communication channels. "You are harboring enemies of the Hegemony. Surrender the refugees immediately or be destroyed." Admiral Myung-Soo opened a channel from his flagship. "This is Admiral Kang of the Terran Merchant Marine. We are conducting humanitarian evacuation operations. These are innocent civilians." "There are no innocents in war," Talvaron replied. "You have 10 minutes to surrender or we will open fire on all ships in this area." Myung-Soo looked at the tactical display. 43 human civilian ships against 60-plus hegemony warships. The math was not encouraging. "All ships, prepare for combat operations," he ordered quietly. On the Busan Express, Captain Haewon was making similar preparations. "Engineering, activate emergency compartmentalization protocols. All passengers to emergency shelters immediately." "Captain," her chief engineer said, "the emergency shelters are just heavily armored sections of the ship designed to survive hull breaches." "I know what they are," Haewon said calmly. "Activate collision avoidance systems and prepare the docking clamps for emergency use." "Ma'am, the collision avoidance system is just point defense guns, and the docking clamps are magnetic accelerators." "Your point?" Across the human fleet, similar preparations were taking place. Cargo haulers activated their cargo handling systems. Mining ships powered up their ore processing equipment. Research vessels deployed their sample collection arrays. When the 10-minute deadline expired, War Master Talvaron gave the order to attack. The first hegemony missiles never reached their targets. Every human ship in the fleet opened up with their point defense systems, originally designed to shoot down dangerous space debris. The advanced targeting computers and rapid-fire weapons turned the incoming missiles into expanding clouds of metal fragments. "Impossible," Talvaron shouted. "Those are civilian ships. They don't have military weapons." "They're not military weapons," Admiral Myung-Soo said calmly as his flagship's main cargo bay opened to reveal rows of magnetic accelerators. "They're cargo handling systems." The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Cargo containers, full of mining explosives, flew through space like massive missiles. Industrial cutting lasers, designed to slice through asteroid cores, carved through hegemony hull plating like butter. Magnetic accelerators launched everything from spare parts to emergency supplies at velocities that turned them into kinetic weapons. Captain Haewon's passenger liner used its docking clamps to grab a hegemony escort ship and hold it in place while the point defense systems systematically destroyed its weapons and engines. "This is madness," Talvaron screamed. "You're fighting with maintenance equipment." "We're defending innocent lives with the tools we have," Hei-Wan replied, as her ship's emergency blast doors absorbed a direct hit from a hegemony plasma cannon. "And our tools are built to last." The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, half the hegemony fleet was destroyed or disabled, and the rest was retreating at maximum speed. The human civilian fleet had suffered some damage, but not a single ship was lost. War Master Talvaron's flagship limped away with most of its weapons destroyed, and its hull breached in a dozen places. "This isn't over," he broadcast as his ship jumped to hyperspace. "The hegemony will remember this." Council President Quindal arrived with the military fleet 6 hours later to find the evacuation complete and the human ships conducting rescue operations for surviving hegemony crew members. "Admiral Kang," Quindal said as his shuttle docked with the human flagship, "your report says you defeated a hegemony battle group with civilian vessels?" "That's correct, Mr. President," Myung-Soo replied. "Though we did have to use some of our emergency supplies as improvised ammunition. I'll need to file for resupply. Your passenger liners engaged heavy cruisers in direct combat." "They protected the refugees," Myung-Soo said simply. "That's what they were designed to do." Quindal stared at the tactical recordings of the battle. Human cargo ships using their loading equipment as weapons. Passenger liners tanking direct hits from military-grade weapons and continuing to fight. Mining vessels carving up warships with industrial tools. "Admiral," he said finally, "what exactly is the difference between your civilian fleet and your military?" Myung-Soo thought for a moment. "Paint scheme, mostly, and the military ships have better sensors." That night, every intelligence analyst in the Galactic Council was working overtime, trying to figure out what they had just witnessed. The humans had turned an entire civilian fleet into an improvised battle group, using nothing but standard equipment. The conclusion was unavoidable and terrifying. There was no such thing as a defenseless human ship. In his personal quarters, Council, President Quindal stared at a report titled Reassessment of Human Military Capabilities. The first paragraph made him question everything he thought he knew about the newest members of the galactic community. It read, "Recommendation: treat all human civilian vessels as potential military assets. Further recommendation: find out what their actual military ships can do, and hope we never have to find out the hard way." The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Ambassador Hyun-Woo Kim sat in the center of the vast room, surrounded by hundreds of alien representatives who were all staring at him with expressions ranging from confusion to outright fear. Chancellor Vexthai's normally bright glow had dimmed to barely visible levels. "Ambassador Kim," Vexthai said slowly, "we need to discuss recent events involving human vessels." Hyun-Woo nodded. "Of course, Chancellor. I hope our Merchant Marine's rescue operations were satisfactory." Admiral Kang reported that all civilians were successfully evacuated. "Your Merchant Marine destroyed half of a hegemony battle fleet. They defended innocent people," Hyun-Woo said simply. "That's what any decent beings would do." Morden, the massive reptilian military advisor, leaned forward in his chair. "Ambassador, your civilian ships fought military vessels and won. This is unprecedented in galactic history." "I'm sorry if our actions caused diplomatic problems," Hyun-Woo said, though he didn't sound sorry at all. "But we couldn't just let those people die." "That's not the issue," Chancellor Vexthai said. "The issue is how your civilian vessels were able to defeat military warships. We need to understand human ship construction methods." Dr. Jin-A Song, who had been sitting quietly next to Hyun-Woo, stood up. She was the head of human colonial development and had personally overseen the construction of dozens of human settlements. "May I address the Council, Chancellor?" she asked. "Please do, Dr. Song. Perhaps you can explain why human cargo ships carry weapons." "They don't carry weapons," Jin-A said. "They carry tools. The difference is important." She activated a holographic display showing the technical specifications of a typical human colony ship. The massive vessel looked more like a flying city than a spacecraft. "This is the new Sol, one of our newest colony ships," Jin'ei explained. "It carries 50,000 colonists and everything needed to establish a new settlement. Notice the thick hull plating, multiple backup systems, and heavy construction equipment." The alien council members studied the display with growing alarm. The colony ship's specifications were impressive and intimidating. "Why is it so heavily armored?" asked a crystalline representative. "Because colonists are precious cargo," Jin'ei said. "Colony ships travel to unexplored systems where anything might happen. Asteroid impacts, solar flares, equipment failures, hostile environments. We build them to survive anything." "What about the weapons systems?" Mordoon demanded. "What weapons systems?" Jin'ei looked genuinely confused. "Those are construction tools. Plasma cutters for clearing landing sites, excavators for mining operations, fabrication systems for building infrastructure. Those construction tools could destroy a city." "Well, yes. How else would you clear a forest or level a mountain for construction? Colony ships need to be able to reshape entire landscapes." Hyunwoo stood up beside Jin'ei. "I think I understand the confusion now. You're asking why humans build everything like it's going to war." "Exactly," Chancellor Vextai said. "It's because we come from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years." Hyunwoo said calmly. "Earth has volcanoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, droughts, ice ages, and mass extinctions. Our ancestors survived by building things that could last through disasters." Jin'ei nodded. "When humans build something, we assume it will face the worst possible conditions. Our houses are built to survive earthquakes and storms. Our vehicles are designed to handle crashes in rough terrain. Our tools are made to work in extreme temperatures and hostile environments. But you apply this to everything," protested a gaseous being from the outer rim. "Even children's toys and furniture." "Especially children's toys," Hyunwoo said with a smile. "Have you ever seen how human children play? They're like tiny destructive forces of nature. If something can survive being used by human children, it can survive almost anything." The council chamber erupted in worried murmurs. Several representatives were taking frantic notes. "So when you went to space," Chancellor Vextai said slowly, "you brought this over-engineering philosophy with you." "Of course," Ginny said. "Space is even more dangerous than Earth. Vacuum, radiation, micrometeorites, temperature extremes. Why would we build ships any less durable than we build everything else?" "But the result," Mordoon said, "is that your civilian fleet is effectively a military force." "No," Hyunwoo corrected. "The result is that our civilian fleet can survive in space. The fact that survival equipment can also be used for defense is just a side effect." Admiral Vorthak, who had recently defected from the hegemony after witnessing the battle with the human merchant marine, spoke up from his position in the observer section. "Ambassador Kim," he said, "I commanded ships against your people. Your cargo haulers used loading equipment as weapons. Your passenger liners absorbed direct hits from military-grade plasma cannons and kept fighting. Your mining ships cut through our hull plating like paper." "That's all standard equipment," Hyunwoo said. "Cargo handling systems, emergency compartmentalization, and industrial cutting tools. We use them every day for normal operations. Your emergency shelters are better protected than most species' military command centers," Vorthak continued. "They have to be," Jin'ei said. "If there's an emergency, people's lives depend on those shelters working perfectly. We build them to survive direct asteroid impacts or complete hull failure." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, a small representative from a peaceful trading species raised one tentacle. "Are you saying that humans don't actually militarize their civilian equipment? You civilianize your military equipment?" Hyunwoo and Jin'ei looked at each other. "I guess that's one way to put it," Hyunwoo said. "We build everything to military standards because civilian lives are just as valuable as military ones. More valuable, actually," Jin'ei added. "Military personnel sign up knowing the risks. Civilians just want to live their lives safely." Chancellor Vextai's glow began to brighten slightly. "So, the human approach is to make everything as durable and safe as possible, regardless of its intended use." "Exactly," Hyunwoo said. "We call it good engineering," Why would you build something that breaks easily when you could build it to last? Because most species optimize for cost and efficiency, admitted the crystalline representative. We build things just strong enough to do their job. That seems wasteful, Jin'e said. If it breaks, you have to build another one. And if it breaks at the wrong time, people might die. Better to build it right the first time. The council session continued for hours with alien representatives trying to understand the human approach to engineering and construction. By the end, most of them looked exhausted and slightly overwhelmed. I believe we need to adjourn for today, Chancellor Vexthai said finally. The council needs time to process this information. As the session ended and representatives began filing out, Hyunwoo heard dozens of conversations in different languages. The translators were working overtime, but he caught fragments of the discussions. Need to completely redesign our construction standards. If human children's toys are built better than our spacecraft, maybe we should hire human engineers. Outside the chamber, Jin'e found Hyunwoo looking thoughtful. Do you think we explained it well enough? She asked. I think so, he said. Though I'm not sure they really understand yet. Understand what? That we're not trying to be intimidating. We're just trying to keep everyone safe. The next day, reports began circulating throughout the galaxy about new construction standards being implemented by various species. The Crystalline Federation announced a complete overhaul of their civilian shipbuilding protocols. The Trading Alliance hired a team of human engineers to redesign their cargo vessels. Most telling of all, several species began sending their military engineers to study at human technical schools. On a small research station orbiting Earth, a group of alien military analysts watched human children playing on a playground. The swings, slides, and climbing equipment were built to withstand impacts that would disable most spacecraft. No wonder they're not afraid of space, one analyst said to another. Their children train on equipment more dangerous than our military obstacle courses. The final report of the Galactic Military Assessment Committee was distributed 3 months later. It was titled, Revised Standards for Galactic Engineering, the Human Model. The conclusion read, Recommendation. All member species should adopt human construction standards for civilian and military applications. Further recommendation. If you can't build it to survive human children, don't build it at all. And in the deepest archives of the Galactic Council, a single line was added to the official description of humanity. Species designation, humans. Note, accidentally terrifying. Handle with respect.